On today's Farm Friday show, I'm talking about a big picture overview where this farm system stands, and I'm giving a special shout out to some guys who did not make my top 30 Rangers prospects coming out next week. All that and more on this episode of Locked On Rangers. Let's get into it.
You are Locked On Rangers, your daily Texas Rangers podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
You are locked onto the Texas Rangers, the first and best daily Rangers podcast. I'm Bryce Paddock, a criminally addicted Texas Rangers fan, covered this team for 13 seasons, including all 8 as the founder and host of this podcast. Thank you all so much for making Locked On Rangers your first listen every single day, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, now the #1 sports podcast network. Not only you can follow me on Twitter at Bryce Paddock, you can follow the show at Locked On Rangers, hit subscribe on your favorite podcasting platform, and on YouTube, where the best thing you can help grow the show is to comment nearly any single thing below. Now, on today's show, I'm doing a Farm Friday episode, big picture, looking out at the state of the Rangers farm system, what's going well for this Rangers farm in general, what's not going well. We're going to look a little bit at some of the prospects the Rangers gave up that might be hurting a little bit more now than they were at the start of this season, and some special shout outs to some honorable mentions who did not make my top 30 Rangers prospects, but are definitely noteworthy in the big scheme of this Rangers farm system. Now, you may be wondering, Bryce, why are you talking about this series against the Nationals where the Rangers swept and won 35-0 in every single game and every pitcher had a perfect game? Well, maybe that's what happened. Maybe it's not what happened, but I am recording this in the future, so I do not know, or in the past, because I do not know what happened in this National Series. But if you want to hear about what's going on in this Nat Series, be sure to check out the Locked On Rangers postcast with the illustrious Jeff Biggs, who will have you covered for the entirety of these next 2 weeks. I will be pre-recording all of these shows for not only this week, but also this past week, but also next week with my top 30 prospects. If you want to know what's going on in the games, Jeff has got your back and got you covered. So check out that show. But let's look at this farm system, because I have already ranked my top 30 Rangers prospects. You do not know them yet. You will next week if you listen to every single show, or if you just kind of check the show description on Friday's episode. But you should listen to all those shows because they're some of my favorite ones to do every single year. Now, this farm system is in an okay spot. It was in a rough spot at the start of this year, and it got a little rougher when the Rangers made some trades, particularly the trade for Mackenzie Gore, giving up 5 prospects in that deal. That is one that just really stung at the time, and it might sting a whole lot more after this week. Who knows what Abimelec Ortiz, you probably know actually what Abimelec Ortiz did or did not do against his former squad that signed him as an undrafted free agent and then traded him for Mackenzie Gore. That's just, you're missing that one quite a bit at this moment. But overall, this Rangers farm system, MLB Pipeline just did a big refresh after the draft, after the trade deadline, after all of that good stuff of redoing their top 30 prospects and also ranking all 30 systems. The Rangers moved up from, at the beginning of the season, they were the 25th ranked farm system. Now they are the 20th ranked farm system. And overall, I mean, the draft really helped this squad. I mean, this year's draft, although I haven't really dug too much into the players behind the final 3 picks, really those top 3 picks are doing a lot of the work of this being an outstanding draft class. I'm sure the Rangers have some, diamonds in the rough down there in the lower levels or in the lower rounds of this past draft. They've done a good job of getting good players, not just at the top ends of the draft, but usually in those later to mid rounds. They've also done a good job of snagging guys, sometimes even getting them under slot bonus. And the Rangers need to do that because they spent a lot of money on the first 3 picks of this draft. But the Rangers, the system has gotten better with some of these breakout guys. There's been quite a few breakout guys that I was not expecting to be talking about at the beginning of this year. I mean, guys like Rafe Parrish, really primarily Rafe Parrish, who has been outstanding this year. Dylan Dowling has made some huge strides. Hector Osorio was not a name on my radar at all, and he is absolutely in my top 30 Rangers prospects. But overall, it's been fine. And the main thing that the system lacked, the depth has gotten a lot better. The depth of this squad has definitely gotten a whole lot better. But the one thing that they really didn't have and that the draft really helped, especially those top 3 picks, was not having a lot of stars, having a lot of future potential stars in this system. There's a lot of guys, even in my top 30 right now, that I'm like, I feel good about them being contributing big league players, which was not really the case at the start of the season. At the beginning of the year, my top 30, really the last even 10 guys, I was kind of felt like I was grasping at straws a little bit, not to diminish what those guys were doing, had done at that point in their career or their potential in the future, but it felt a little less solid than it had in previous years. Now, this year, 1 through 30, I mean, I have, I believe, 6 guys right now on my honorable mentions that I really do want to talk about that I just could not include everybody that I wanted to on a top 30, and I didn't have time to do a top 50 because Lord knows I do not have that time the week of my wedding. But there weren't a whole lot of future stars before this Rangers draft class. There was Sebastian Walcott in the system that I feel pretty good about has superstar potential. Again, if things go right, I'm not saying he's a guaranteed superstar, but there's definitely that really high ceiling on there for Sebastian Walcott. Caden Scarborough has the upside of a potential maybe frontline rotation pitcher. Hasn't been the best year for him, but there's still definitely that upside there with him. The two-way players are still very far away, which, by the way, Seong-Jun Kim and Josh Owens, both two-way players who have been in the Arizona Complex League this year, have done a great job. They got promoted this week. As I'm recording this, they have not yet made their debuts in full season ball, but they're with the Arizona Complex League for the entirety of their season, had been off for a little bit because that league was done a couple weeks ago, maybe the end of July, but they will be playing on this season with the Hickory Crawdads, the Rangers Low A affiliate. Congratulations to both those guys who looked pretty darn good on both sides of the ball. The strikeout rates for both a bit high, but they're already tapping into their power and looking pretty good on the mound. The stats are looking pretty solid for both of those guys, and to be able to not only be two-way players, not just a DH and a pitcher, but shortstops and pitcher. That is a lot of developmental work, and they've got very high ceilings, but they are very, very far away to actualizing those ceilings. But the star future potential is definitely there for both of those guys. Honestly, I think in either way. I think especially as hitters, I kind of like them both a little bit more as hitters, but that's also just because I don't trust pitching prospects in general. But I mean, outside of those two guys and the top two in Walcott and Scarborough, and really you had to kind of squint and really squint hard to see maybe a guy with superstar potential down the line. Elian Rosario, who is the Rangers' number one their highest paid international signee this year, who's 17 and in the Dominican Summer League, splitting time between the red team and the blue team. He's looked solid so far this year, and the ceiling is pretty high. But again, he's 17. He has not even made it stateside yet, at least as of this recording. Maybe there's a promotion in his future. Probably not, because that would be pretty aggressive to promote a 17-year-old to stateside ball when he hasn't just absolutely obliterated all the pitching that he's faced. He's been good, but not obliterating things. So this draft class is full of guys with very, very high potential. In Gio Rojas, who is the Rangers' first-round pick, the consensus best left-handed pitching prospect in this draft class. Connor Como, who is a guy who the Rangers were thinking about maybe drafting in the first round. He's a shortstop / third baseman out of a high school in Austin. I mean, he has got pretty high potential. I'm not sure quite superstar potential, but it's mainly about the two left-handed pitchers in the top 3 picks. Brody Bamilla also has just absolutely the highest ceiling, maybe even a higher ceiling than Rojas. There's definitely a lot of potential risk there for both these guys, because not only are they high school pitchers, but for Bamilla, he is having Tommy John surgery, full Tommy John surgery at some point this offseason. Still haven't heard exactly when or if that has happened already or when that will happen. Hopefully at some point in the near future, but you can just already cross off all of 2027. Some point in 2028, hoping that it's not the majority of 2028, because the longer this delay to go get the surgery drags on, the more it will eat into his 2028 season. And he's already starting from behind the 8 ball with this surgery. But I mean, the potential there for Bamilla, I mean, a lefty who's 6'9", who already is touching triple digits pretty routinely with just absolutely off the charts makeup, that is a hugely great thing for this Rangers squad. And so you feel a little bit better about some of these guys. Obviously, you're not going to have that many homegrown superstars. They are very, very rare, hard to find, harder to develop. Wyatt Langford is a great issue of that, or impact iteration of that, of the Rangers just lucking into a guy at the number 4 pick in the year that they won the World Series, and he turns out to be a superstar. but still, it's nice to have those guys all the way up and down your farm system. And you also need some depth, and there has been some improvement on the depth of this squad, but there's also been some frustrations, especially with one particular group of prospects. Talk about who that is and more right after this.
I was juggling a couple different apps the other day, and then I realized to myself, why don't I just use our friends at Clutch Parlays, because that is their expertise. Instead of going to multiple different apps to check different injuries and betting lines, I can see it all in one with our friends at Clutch Parlays. And a little bit of bonus there is they give you data to back their bets. Maybe you want to do a double for a star player that night. They can give you the percentage of what they hit on for that exact bet. And that's why I love our friends at Clutch Parlays. But here's the offer for you. Find the best line and build smarter parlays. Track every bet and make more informed betting decisions, all with ClutchParlays.com. Right now, Clutch Parlays is offering a great deal for Locked On listeners. Your first month free on a monthly plan. They want to make sure that you get a real chance to try it out and see what it can do for you. Go to ClutchParlays.com today and use code Locked On to claim it. ClutchParlays.com. Bring together live odds, line shopping, predictions, bet tracking, analytics in one place so you can bet with more confidence.
This show is also brought to you by Dose Daily. Can we talk about one of the most underrated organs in your body? It's your liver. Your liver is your body's filter, processing everything you consume and performing more than 500 functions every single day. It's involved in things like energy production, digestion, fat metabolism, and vitamin storage as well. So it's doing a lot of work behind the scenes. That's why giving your liver daily support can be an important part of building healthy habits. Dose for Your Liver is a clinically backed liver health supplement designed to support your daily liver function. And unlike another capsule or powder, Dose comes as a liquid 2-ounce daily shot that tastes just like fresh squeezed orange juice. It's zero sugar, zero junk, 0 calories, and making it so easy to add into your daily routine. Because if you've got so many things going on, like we all do, we're so busy, and adding one more thing into your routine just feels like it's just too much. But with Dose, you just take a little 2-ounce shot, tastes like orange juice, and who doesn't love that taste? If you're ready to give your liver the support it deserves, head to dosedaily.co/LockedOnMLB or enter code LockedOnMLB to get 35% off your first subscription. Your body does so much for you, so let's do something for it. That's dosedaily.co/LockedOnMLB for 35% off your first month subscription. Shout out to everybody making Locked On Rangers first listen every single day. On Monday, show I'll be back and starting my top 30 Rangers prospect rankings with number 30 through 25. And for your second listen every single day, go check out the Locked On Rangers postcast to keep you current and live with what's going on in the Rangers world right now with Jeff Biggs, the Locked On Rangers postcast. Now, there's been quite a few things that have gone right for this Ranger squad. There's been some nice pop-ups the last couple of years that haven't been all that many, especially hitters that have just kind of popped out of nowhere and really jumped onto top 30 prospect rankings or just popped onto the general prospect watchers consciousness. But that has been the case for the Rangers this season. The one thing that has gone really askew for these Rangers prospects in general has been outside of the of course injury to Sebastian Walcott that kept him out until July. It's really been the upper level arms in this farm system that I had really high hopes for heading into this season that have just really fallen off in a big way. Part of that's been due to injuries. Part of that's been due to ineffectiveness of just basically 4 guys that were really close to the big leagues that I thought were going to make a pretty decent sized impact on this Ranger squad. Now, I thought they would be more likely in the bullpen than helping in the starting rotation, but just that depth the Rangers thought they had at the upper level minors has not really been there. David Davalillo has gotten back on track as of late, but the first few months of this season were really rough for him. Winston Santos has been dealing with some injuries, did make his big league debut, and I think got hung out to dry there a little bit of being asked to warm up 4 different times before he actually came in, and then still pitched multiple innings and, of course, gave up a few runs because that's not a very helpful situation to get into. We also saw the second big league appearance of Jose Corniel and also the third, and it did not go particularly well. It's just been a rough year for Corniel. I don't know exactly what's off with him, but he has fallen pretty precipitously in my top 30 Rangers prospects. And Emiliano Teodo, who has also been dealing with a little bit of injuries and ineffectiveness and made his big league debut and was not particularly special in that debut and got just pretty quickly sent back down. Even Leandro Lopez, who was dropped fully out of my top 30, he was a guy who was pretty high up there in the mid, teens or so before this season, but he has had just an awful year. So it's just a whole bunch of different guys who have just really struggled at the upper level of these minors. But there are a lot of guys who have done well, who did not quite make the cut for my top 30. And I want to give those guys their shine, starting with Arturo Diesla, who was an undrafted signee out of Wayland Baptist College in Plainview, Texas. Shout out West Texas. But I mean, oh my goodness, this is a big old dude who is a first baseman who has no choice but to hit for power and hit for average and get on base and be an offensive force. Because when you are only a first base type, I don't even think he has played the outfield in his professional career. Maybe a couple of outings out there, one game at third base back in 2023 or in 2024, one game in left field back in 2025. But this year, just strictly DH/first base. And he has been absolutely crushing between Hub City and Frisco. Still a little bit on the older side. He was born in the Dominican Republic, but did come to college in the States and did pretty well at Wayland Baptist. But in Frisco this year, he has been just crushing it. He spent most of his time in Frisco, has a 901 OPS in 74 games there, 20 home runs on the season in 104 games between the 74 games there and 30 games at Hub City as of this recording. Had a near 1,000 OPS at Hub City before getting promoted. He looked awesome there, hitting over 300 in that level, only 293 at Frisco. Still very good. You combine his numbers on the season, he's just a little bit shy of being a 3.45 guy, a 300 batting average, a 400 on base, and a 500 slug. He's got the slug. The batting average is 2 points shy of 300. The on base is 10 points shy of 400, but a 927 OPS on the year. As a guy who is a first base DH type only, has been crushing it offensively. And it's just good to see him putting up these numbers, because to be even on the prospect radar as a first baseman / DH, you have got to absolutely rake. And he has done that between two levels this year. The next guy on this list is a former draft pick of the Rangers, a really recent draft pick in the 8th round of 2025, Evan Cieri, who I am trying to get on the podcast, still working out details and logistics with that. Might end up being in the offseason, but Cieri has had a pretty good season so far with Hickory. This is his first full season as a professional baseball player. Last year made 4 stars for Hickory, didn't go particularly well, but again, he had just finished up a college season, and it's a difficult ask to ask a guy to throw an entire college season and say, hey, also, can you throw a little bit more? Would you also mind throwing a little bit more? Because we could really use that. But in the month of July, this guy was absolutely fantastic. The pitcher of the month for his league. 4 starts, a .92 ERA in 19 2/3 innings, 12.4 Ks per 9 that month. The strikeout rate has gone up and up and up the last couple of months. In the first couple months of the season, it was hovering around 8. It was down to 4 in June. Not a great month for him in June, but a very good May at limiting runs, a 2.36 ERA in that month. And so far at 2 starts in August, he might have already made his 3rd start this month, but around a 2.5 ERA this month with 10.1 Ks per 9. So the strikeouts are trending upward. His walk numbers are pretty good. Not anything that's going to get you beat too badly. But his best start of the season came back on the 12th of July. 6 innings, 3 hits, no walks, 10 strikeouts against those Augusta Green Jackets, the Braves affiliate in that league. He has been pretty darn good. A 3.13 ERA on the season, already hit 92 innings, a very respectable workload, and he's still got a few more starts in him left this season. I'd imagine next year we see him in Hub City, and maybe if things go well, we see him in Frisco by the end of next year. But again, he's about league average for this level. So good to see him having some success. Good to see him building up that innings workload and putting up solid strikeout numbers while not getting beat too bad on the walks. Love a prospect who can stay in the zone, get swings and misses, and also get some chases. That is what we've seen from Evan Cieri so far this season, and he definitely deserves an honorable mention, as does Marco Argudin. This is a guy that I think if I had a 31st prospect on my top 30, I think Marco would be this guy. He was a prospect the Rangers signed out of Cuba, made his debut in the DSL at 19, so a little bit older than the average player in that league. But so far this year, started in the Complex League, has made it to Hickory, where he has been pretty darn good, but he absolutely obliterated competition in the Arizona Complex League. 19 games there. He had a 1,028 OPS on the season combined between Hickory and the ACL. He has got 5 home runs, 10 stolen bases, a 409 on base, and an 835 OPS. He is a left-handed hitter who has also throws left-handed, played left, right, and center field. But he has had a pretty solid season, and even though he's right around league average-ish age, a little bit below for Hickory, he has been putting up some pretty impressive numbers so far this season. And if I had a 31st prospect, I think he might be on there. It might be someone else on this list. There's a few more honorable mentions I want to get to, including the son of a former Rangers DH on the first World Series team this team ever had. Yes, it's the brother of Vladimir Guerrero Jr. We'll talk about that and more right after this. This show is brought to you by the Everyday Icon, presented by Stance. As the official stock partner of Major League Baseball, Stance knows the greatness isn't built in a single moment. It is earned over time through consistency, preparation, and showing up every single day. That's why each week we are recognizing one player whose performance embodies those same qualities, and this is interesting to do before the Rangers have really played a game this week. So I'm going to give it to Jake Burger, who had a fantastic weekend, and I'm hoping that proves that he is having a fantastic week. I'm recording this on Tuesday before the Rangers have even started the series against the Nationals, but I am banking on those swing changes that Jake Burger made, hopefully paying some big dividends this week against a not great Nationals pitching staff. But the Everyday Icon is presented by Stance, so check out the Icon collection from Stance. Premium comfort, performance, durability, designed for whatever your day brings. Use promo code LOCKEDON at checkout for 20% off your purchase. Stance, the official stock partner of Major League Baseball. Learn more at stance.com. This show is also brought to you by 5 Hour Energy. If you've got a sweet tooth like I do, you know how tough it is to find that perfect treat without all that sugar. That's why the Fruity Rainbow 5 Hour Energy Shot brings that nostalgic flavor back in a whole new way. Fruity Rainbow 5 Hour Energy Shot treats your taste buds like to an explosion of a fruity flavor with a tasty caffeine kick. It's a quick, easy way to satisfy that sweet craving while keeping things simple and on the go. A zero sugar treat that's sweet tooth approved is so rare and hard to find, but this is what it is. I like how convenient it is too. It's just a small portable shot I can grab whenever I need a little pick me up. And this week, recording 2 weeks worth of podcast in 1 week, I have needed this 5 Hour Energy Shot, and it's become part of my go-to when I want something sweet without going overboard, and also has that caffeine boost that you need. So get your candy flavored chaos with Fruity Rainbow 5 Hour Energy Shots, available online at 5hourenergy.com or on Amazon. Now, I still have a few more honorable mentions that I want to mention honorably before we talk about just a bigger picture look at this farm system, going a little bit level by level and looking at these guys, and also talking a little bit about some prospects who the Rangers gave up, and one of whom is hurting, actually a couple of whom are hurting real bad to watch succeed elsewhere at the big league level. The next guy on my honorable mention is Keibert Rodriguez, who is not necessarily, he's not really on a prospect watch list. He's a little old for the level. He's turning 26 in October of this year, which makes me feel very old to say, oh no, he's too old to be a prospect, and he was born in the year 2000. That makes me feel just incredibly old, but he has done a great job this year. He was a minor league free agent signing. He's 25 this year. He did very, very well in Frisco, hitting a .318 at the level in 41 games. He also had 5 home runs there, a .355 on base percentage, and a .857 OPS. In Round Rock, he has done better at hitting home runs. He has been much more power driven there, 11 home runs, but the batting average has been down over 100 points at that level. The on base has been down a little bit. He's still slugging a .703 OPS at AAA. Round Rock is not quite as good as what he was doing in Frisco, but what he was doing in Frisco definitely deserves some shouting out. William Bormy, another guy who has spent time between AA Frisco and AAA Round Rock. Bormy, I would imagine at some point, either this year, maybe next year, gets his shot in the big leagues. He is always really pretty much always been a reliever ever since 2024. He made 8 starts that season, but really since then he has been put in the bullpen, and he has done very, very well, especially in Frisco. 18 games there, 25 and a third innings, 33 Ks, just 9 walked, in a 1.78 ERA. This guy can dial it up all the way up there into triple digits, has a nasty cutter as well, and I think we could see him in a big league pen by the end of this year, if not early next year. He has done a pretty good job in Round Rock as well, a much more hitter-friendly league. He's got 6 saves overall on the season, but in Round Rock, a 3.47 ERA, 23 and a third innings, 25 strikeouts. But the walks have been a bit more of a problem, which is why I think it's more likely that he pitches next year early on to the mid part of next year. But I bet out of camp he's going to be fighting for a roster spot. I don't know if he'll get it, but again, that's next year, and we still haven't even finished this year yet, and who knows what spring training and all of the season in 2027 is going to look like, so it's impossible to project there. But he has had a nice season overall. You combine his numbers at both levels, he has gone 48 and 2/3 innings, 58 Ks, and a 2.59 ERA. That is definitely someone worth mentioning in an honorable manner. Now, the next guy on this list is the guy who has probably the biggest name recognition on these list of honorable mentions, and that's because partially of who his dad is, partially because of who his brother is. This is Pablo Guerrero, a basically just first baseman slash DH type at this point in his career. He spent time between Hickory and the Arizona Complex League, only 6 games in the Complex League, but he's 19, already playing full season ball. And in 30 games with Hickory, he has been just crushing it. You combine the levels that he had below it, and across 2 levels in 36 games so far this year, 5 home runs, 10 doubles, a 336 batting average, 444 on base, and a 531 slugging percentage. He is still pretty far away at this point, but he was able to make his big league or his professional debut and hit 4 home runs as a 16-year-old in the DSL in 36 games back in 2023. He was 17 in 2024, spent time stateside for the first time in the Complex League and also down east. Had a decent year. There was a little bit overmatched at down east, just 27 games there and a sub 600 OPS, but an OPS north, just 12 points shy of 900 as a 17-year-old in stateside ball. Last year in Hickory was a little bit of a disappointing season, but again, it was an aggressive assignment. Full season ball as an 18-year-old is a very, very high accomplishment, and him being still in full season ball at 19, there's no shame in repeating level when you are still that young. I mean, this is his 4th professional season now, and he's just 19 years old. That is very, very impressive. Again, he is a first baseman, so it's hard to justify putting him on a top 30. He has played a little bit of the outfield, but not really at all this year. A little bit last year, a little bit in 2024 and 2023 as well, exclusively in the outfield in 2023 and in 2024, a little bit at first base, but basically just been first base DH type only. You got to continue to hit and hit and hit and hit at every single level to be a real prospect and to even make the big leagues as an outfield or a first base slash DH type. But with that name recognition, with this level of experience already at such a young age and putting up these kind of numbers, it has been very, very impressive to see for Pablo Guerrero. And the last guy on this list is maybe someone that you have heard of and paid attention to if you have been following Rangers prospects for quite some time. But I mean, Brock Porter has been having the most confusing season. I mean, I have been just absolutely perplexed by Brock Porter for several years. This is a guy who the Rangers drafted back in the 4th round of 2022. That was the same draft where the Rangers selected Kumar Rocker with the 3rd overall pick, shocking a lot of people, going well under slot when Rocker was just drafted the year before, went 10th to the Mets, and the Mets saw the shoulder and those concerns with the injuries, and after the medical evaluation said, we're good, we're not signing him, we're not doing that. He went to independent ball, and the Rangers drafted him with the 3rd pick, used the savings going well below slot to go and get Brock Porter because the Rangers at that point had lost their 2nd and 3rd round picks because they signed Marcus Semien and Corey Seager and then went on to win a World Series the next year. But basically they blew a lot of their slot money on their first 2 picks. Brock Porter had 1st round talent, but he was still very raw and again, a high school pitcher and very far away. There have been a lot of mechanical changes for Porter. He has moved to more of a bullpen guy at this point, but he has found success at least at Frisco in his first outing, 3 2/3 innings, 5 strikeouts, just 1 hit. You say, okay, great. Why isn't he higher up in this prospect? Why isn't he on the top 30 prospects? Well, he also walked 6, and the walks have been just a massive, massive problem for Brock Porter in his career. Across 4 seasons in 219 2/3 innings, he has a walks per 9 of 6.4. Now, his strikeouts per 9 are nearly 11 at 10.9. He has done a great job of racking up strikeouts, but this guy is just so wild. It is impossible to really justify putting him on a top 30, but he's finding success. He is finding ways to, limit runs and limit base runners, or at least limit them from going around the bases. A 3.81 ERA in 18 games, 1 start, 59 innings, 43 walks, and 69 strikeouts in Hub City. This was his 3rd season in Hub City. He has been just kind of stuck there. Didn't pitch a whole lot in 2024. Underwent some pretty drastic changes. His best professional season was his first season with Down East, with the then, I believe, Wood Ducks at that point, before they became Hub City and the Spartanburgers. A 2.47 ERA that year, 69 1/3 innings. But again, over 5.5 walks per 9 and 12.3 Ks per 9. The changeup has always been so advanced. It's been his best pitch, but he has just been so walk prone that I don't think you can stick with him being a starter. And the hope is that the stuff can be nasty enough and he can stay in the zone enough to make it to a big league pen one day. He is still very, very far away, but he has been having some success despite some of these drawbacks with the command and control as well. But there's a few prospects that I want to look at that have been a little bit painful in these drafts, or in these trades the Rangers have given up. And I do want to shout out these guys who the Rangers drafted and developed and then traded elsewhere, who have found some success at the big league level elsewhere. I mean, primarily Mitch Bratt, who has done just a fantastic job with the Arizona Diamondbacks. It breaks my heart to not see Mitch Bratt in a Rangers uniform making his big league debut. He did that earlier this year. He was part, along with Cole Drake and David Hageman, David Hageman has done a great job in Arizona as well. That trade is going to look really, really painful, not only now, but in the future as well. They were part of the Merrill Kelly trade back in 2025. And so far this year, it's been pretty good for Mitch Bratt, a little bit hit and miss, but 8 games, a 4.17 ERA at the big league level. All of those have been starts he had, including his best start of the season against the Padres, 7 innings, 1 hit, and 9 strikeouts. That just, knife to the chest, especially given what the Rangers got back from Merrill Kelly for that season and still missed the playoffs. And they gave up these prospects who have looked pretty darn good. Hageman is going to hurt. Cole Drake has scuffled a little bit. He did also make his big league debut, also made 4 starts at the big league level, averaging a little over 4 innings per start. A huge accomplishment to get to the big leagues. But the one that's really hurting, as maybe you've already seen this week, Abimelec Ortiz, who was part of the Rangers trade package to go get Mackenzie Gore. Abimelec Ortiz was also one of the undrafted signees in the 2020 draft class who the Rangers just got and had done pretty well. He's very similar to Arturo Diesla in that he went the junior college route and the Rangers signed him and just had some fantastic success with the Rangers, but he was kind of a guy who was very, very streaky. I mean, even you look at his numbers in AAA Rochester this year, and they haven't been particularly impressive, but once he got to the big leagues, he just has been absolutely crushing it. At the time of this recording, his first 14 games, he's got 5 home runs, hitting an even 300 with a 1,017 OPS. That is painful to watch, especially as the Rangers are not getting the kind of production they were expecting from who they thought was going to be their left-handed ace in Mackenzie Gore. Now, the other parts of that trade in the first couple of months of the season looked like it was going to be an all-time terrible trade, but since being promoted to higher levels, almost all of those guys have struggled. I mean, Yermy Cabrera was part of that trade, and in Fredericksburg at the low A level in 30 games, he had an OPS north of 1,100. And then in the 68 games at the higher level, the advanced A in Wilmington, the South Atlantic League, also facing off against some Rangers prospects, he has an OPS of an even 600. Gavin Feen has been solid. I anticipate him continuing to be solid. That one might end up being the one that hurts the most. But Devin Fitzgerald jumped onto some top 100 prospect rankings because he looks so good in Wilmington, and an OPS of 951 games there. Then he got promoted to Double A Harrisburg and has a 522 OPS in 43 games there. So that's not hurting quite as much. And Alejandro Rosario still has not pitched since 2024. I think he did finally have Tommy John surgery at some point. But still, overall, this farm, those prospects are probably going to hurt. You don't hate being aggressive. You just hate not being able to make the postseason and take advantage of having those better players. Usually, prospects don't always end up hurting you that bad, but still, it's nice to have some more depth on this farm. And when the Raiders trade away those prospects, I thought, okay, this season's going to be really, really rough on this farm, especially if you had told me that so many of those upper level minors arms are going to struggle. But there have been a lot of positive breakouts, and I'm going to be talking about so many of them on next week's shows. But that's going to do it for this week's editions of Locked On Rangers. Thank you all so much for listening and subscribing. And until next time, don't forget to enjoy baseball.